All right, welcome back to another episode of the Kartercast. I'm your host, Karter. Bronny. With me, as always, Chase and Connor. We're back, NBA podcast recording Monday night, May 13th at 12:45 Eastern Time. We just watched Thunder Mavs series tied 2-2. We'll get into that in a second, but before we get into today's episode, we are brought to you by SeatGeek. Download the SeatGeek app or go to SeatGeek.com for $20 off your first purchase. Use code KarterCast, KarterKast, $50 minimum purchase required. Terms and conditions do apply. On your first purchase at SeatGeek, $20 off. Use code KarterCast. Download the SeatGeek app today. All right, let's get into the show right now, right away. Happy birthday, Chase, first off, May 13th. Here we go. I guess it's May 14th now that we're recording. But anyhow, let's start off Thunder Mavs. This game, the Thunder stole Game 4. There's no other way to put it. The Mavs shoot 52% from the free throw line. Game ends. Thunder win by 400-96. Series tied 2-2 now. So each one won on the road and at home. So, Chase, I'll start with you. Overall thoughts from the game tonight and the series as a whole.
You know, it was like the third quarter, and I was texting you, Karter. I was like, I'm so ready to just throw this Thunder team away and just call them quits. I had like a bunch of notes. I was like, Lou Dort is no good. J-Dub, he only has one move on offense. Chet is not aggressive enough, when he doesn't have, Lively on him and all these things. And what do you know? The Thunder just go ahead and steal it. I thought it was pretty gutsy from that young team, who I really didn't think they had it in them. I know last pod, I picked them to win it in 7, but I was ready to come on here and be like, Mavs might win this in 5 or 6. This one's over. But I'm super impressed with OKC tonight. It was just the ugliest, most no-flow game. The third quarter was a grind, and somehow OKC was able to pull it out in the last 5 minutes there. Shea started hitting insane shots from the corner, like 3 in a row to take the lead. Chet came up big with a 3 in the corner, and all of a sudden, Mavs couldn't score. Their offense got stagnant. I want to know what Tim Hardaway Jr. has on Jason Kidd. Why does he get so many minutes? It doesn't make any sense to me. I think Derrick Jones does everything better than that man, and he should steal his minutes. But that's besides the point. It was fair. Just gutsy, and I think it's a choke from the Mavs more so than it is a real, OKC won this game. I think the Mavs lost it. You can take that for however you want to mean it. But it's absolutely needed by the Thunder, and it's a whole new series now, 2-2.
Connor.
Yeah, my first reaction to this instantly is this is the type of game that will lose a series for you. Because if you're the Mavs and you're up double digits most of the second half, most of the game really, and you got a chance to go up 3-1 going back to Oklahoma City against a young, inexperienced team. Yes, they're the 1 seed. This is their first real run in the playoffs. This is the type of game that loses a series. Because now all of a sudden it's 2-2. You're heading back to Oklahoma City. That place is going to be an absolute madhouse. And they have the confidence. They're like, we just battled back. We gutted one out in Dallas to even the series. Now they have confidence in themselves. SGA found his shot in the short corner. You're right, Chase. Some of those shots were absolutely crazy. And the one stat that I really took away from is that first quarter, Mavs were up 10 after 1. They out-rebounded them 13-5. 4 offensive rebounds in the first quarter. After that, the game ended 47-45 in the rebounding margin, and they had the same number of offensive rebounds. That tells me OKC didn't want to get pushed around in the paint anymore. They wanted to get on the glass. They really made it a point of emphasis to keep those offensive rebounds to a minimum in the second half, and it really paid off. So that was the number one takeaway for me, and I think OKC has this series in control now. I think this is the type of game that really shifts the momentum of the series, and I think they win Game 5, and then all of a sudden you're one bad Luka game away from going home.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. Just from tonight, though, real quick. You mentioned it, Connor, just how it can kind of change things and just the confidence it brings to a young team like this. This is one of those games if they win the series, this is the game we're going to look back on, I think.
Yep.
I mean, yes, we'll obviously look at the final game of the series and what happens, but this was the pivotal turning point if OKC can pull this off and win this series. But also going forward in years to come, this is one of those pivotal playoff games for a young group like this. Seeing Chet making this 2 huge free throws at the end of the game. I mean, he was more clutch than Luka tonight. And then Shai Gilgeous with 34, putting the team on his back left and right. Lou Dort finally knocking down shots after having a slow start. Just those things, I mean, they just grinded out a win. And that's what the great teams do. They can just grind out wins. Look at the Nuggets. The Nuggets were down every first half against the Lakers and came back and won every single game. And you're like, how did they win that game? They played terrible. They played terrible for 85% of the game. They just stuck around, played hard, grinded it out, won it ugly. For the series as a whole, now that it's 2-2, I don't want to get stuck in recency bias. We keep doing this where all of a sudden Minnesota's down 2-0 and we're on here like, and the whole world's like, yeah, Minnesota's won, Anthony Edwards next Michael Jordan, Jokic is a fat white bum, what a loser he is. And then next thing you know, it's 2-2, and Jokic is cooking, Jamal Murray, the 3-day rest. We'll get into that series in a little bit, but I just don't want to fall into recency bias because I think just game to game, everything can change, especially in a series with this where Luka comes out, he can win a game single-handedly. Shai Gilgeous comes out, we saw tonight, he can put 40 up anytime he wants. So, or no, he can't put up 35 plus, Connor. He can't put up
not
35
plus.
He can't put up 35 plus, but
Can't do
no.
that.
And so I would still pick the Mavs here. I'm still picking the Mavs in this series.
See, if they would have won tonight and they would have kept that double-digit lead and gone back to OKC 3-1, I'd have been like, okay, this is probably
It's easy
over.
to say that, though, with 3-1, but even at 2-2, I just don't want to overreact because, we clearly saw Mavericks can win in Oklahoma City. The road factor's not an issue there. And tonight was such a historically bad game from the free throw line. They make 4 free. They shot 10 at 11 of 22 from the line, 11 of 20, 11 21,
12 of 23.
12 of 23. We were close. We were almost there. 12 of 23 from the free throw line tonight. But they should have won that game. It was right there. I understand the confidence and how it can turn, but keep going.
I was going to say, I'm going to argue my take here is not recency bias because we haven't been on the podcast since, game 2? So it was 1-1 last time we did a podcast. And I stuck to my guns here. I still picked OKC after that, and my opinion hasn't changed because I really do feel like this series, this game was the momentum shift that OKC needed. I really do feel that way. I will say, in favor of Dallas, they found something that really worked a lot. I don't know if y'all noticed this in the first half, but they started putting Gafford and Lively, whoever was playing the 5. They put them on Josh Giddey or Aaron Wiggins or whoever was the worst three-point shooter on the team, and that allowed them to roam free in the paint, kind of like what Anthony Davis does with the Lakers a little bit. But they were roaming free, and then they put P.J. Washington on Chet. So all of a sudden, he's switching the pick and roll. P.J. can guard Shea. He can guard J-Dub. That allows him to switch everything up top. That really gave Shea fits in the first half. It really did. He got going in the second half, so maybe they figured a little something out there, benching Josh Giddey, putting Aaron Wiggins on the bench. We're going to get a heavy dose of Case and Wallace in Game 5, I feel like. But I will say the Mavs did seem to figure something out in that first half defensively, so I'll be interested to see if that carries over.
Go ahead, Chase.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's not a lot to be confident in Dallas in right now, obviously, with what we just watched. But I'm actually going to go ahead and stick with Karter in this. I still think the Mavs have this series, even despite what we said. They just have better players right now. OKC had a great Dort game, and he was able to really turn the tide there in that fourth quarter, hitting those threes. If they don't have that, and if Dallas shoots even 60%, maybe more like 70% from the free throw line, they win this ball game. It was horrible collapse by them, and it's just clutch free throw shooting in the end. Credit to OKC, though, they knocked theirs down, right? And those clutch moments came up with Shea, and he was able to make it happen. The problem with Dallas is Kyrie wasn't on it tonight, right? Only 9 points from him. You have a Luka game where he gets banged left and right on the floor every single play, it seems like, right? Still has a triple-double. You have an awesome P.J. Washington game again, and you still aren't able to get it done. However, I have this whole rant going, but I'm not going to go on it. The thing with Dallas, they have the better coach. They have more depth. The role players make the difference. I think
Dallas does not have the better coach.
I don't know if
Dallas
they have
does not
a
have the
better
better
coach.
coach.
You think Jason Kidd's a better coach?
I think
I'm
Jason
pretty sure
Kidd's
the
a better coach than Mark Daigneault right now. Yes.
I'm pretty sure the coach of the year is on the other sideline. Didn't that just happen like a week ago?
Okay, look, coach of the year is... Okay, most of the awards are fake in the NBA, all right? Coach of the year just goes
Coming from a Jason Tatum fan after his press conference rant, that actually makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
Listen. Coach of the year just goes to the team that is... It's just most improved team. We all know that's the case. And OKC was. And Daigneault deserves that, right? But you're not going to sit there and be like, okay, Daigneault's better than Spoelstra because he won Coach of the Year. It's not how it works, all right? Jason Kidd's more experienced, all right?
But what has Jason Kidd done as a coach is my question.
Here's what I like from Jason Kidd. And listen, he doesn't have a great track record, but 10 seconds left, right? They get the rebound there to drop a play for Luka, down 2. Jason Kidd takes a timeout. How many coaches don't take timeouts in today's NBA, and they love to play it out? He runs it out of bounds play. Luka gets to the free throw line. Miss the free throws. Nothing you can do about that as a coach, right? But Jason Kidd has the offensive mind to coach this team, and they have figured things out defensively, like Connor was saying, and I think it wins out in the end. Now, we can have a debate later about Daigneault versus Kidd, but those are my reasonings for Dallas.
Well, hold up. The overall thing is, I don't think coaching effing matters at this point. Like, yeah, those like little adjustments, the timeout, call the right play, whatever. But like you mentioned, at the end of the day, make your damn free throws. It's that simple. Like, let's not overcomplicate this. They didn't make their free throws. I think Charles Barkley came up with a great point. This is another reason why I like the Mavs more in the series over the Thunder. Is after the win, they cut to Charles at TNT, and he's like, "Hey, man, like, I didn't like what I saw from the Thunder tonight. It's still too much iso ball for them, and we're seeing it right now with Jalen Brunson and the Knicks. They're getting a little overworked more. SGA has a lot more help than what Jalen Brunson has, but it's not sustainable the amount he's shooting. Eventually, this iso ball stuff, it's just not going to work out. I mean, whether maybe they get past the Mavericks, but Connor, I texted you earlier, but whoever gets into that next series, I think they might get cooked in the Western Conference Finals.
I think that's definitely a fair point. Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair point. The thing about the iso ball is, I get it, but like, where else are they going to go tonight? I mean, J-Dub's not having it. Chet had a pretty decent game, but outside of that, Lou Dort's what, 4 for 17?
He was 4 for 17. He might have been, actually. He was missing everything.
It was something crazy like that. But on the other side of things, the reason that I don't feel confident about the Mavs is we have not seen Luka play up to his potential. He's clearly hurt. He was 6 for 20 tonight with 7 turnovers. Like, he's clearly not 100%. When are we going to get a Kyrie game? Kyrie had 9 points on 11 shots tonight. Like, yes, he's been making all the right plays. He's been making all the right plays. I will give him that. He's been playing great defense on the switch. He's been making some great passes. Eventually, he's got to shoot 25 times. Because Luka's not right, he's got to be the best player on the court if they're going to win this series. PJ Washington is not going to keep shooting 55% from the floor. It's not going to keep happening. As a Hornets fan, we know that. We know that's not going to keep happening. He is due for 4 for 15 next game. I'm probably taking his all-unders next game.
Real quick. Well, one, I think book it with Trent, cash PJ Washington bets for everybody today because he took less. But anyhow, watching the Mavs right now, how infuriating is it when you're just like, Kyrie, just take over, man. Just take over. Quit being so passive. Shoot the ball. Take it to the hole. He was just, I understand he was making the right, especially in the first half, he was making the right play. But in the second half, you dribble. I know he was getting trapped a little bit, but, man, figure it out, dude, because he's so good. Every time he drives to the paint, you're like, he could do this every time, it feels like.
Yep.
Every time. And he hits the toughest jumpers. And you're just like, just keep taking over. Keep shooting, man. And because the Luka stuff, it was getting frustrating because Kyrie goes to sit in the corner. Luka gets a high pick and roll and then dances around and then tries to get a foul call or a step back brick. And you're just like, at some point, you're like, let Kyrie run the offense, man. Because if Luka doesn't have it, give it to Kyrie and take over.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's fair. But there comes a certain point in the game. I think this kind of goes along with what you're saying, Carter. There comes a certain point in the game, especially in the second half, where, okay, Luka has now missed 5 shots in a row. He's whining to the refs a little too much. Maybe P.J. Washington missed his last three-pointer. There comes a point where Kyrie has to go get the ball at the top of the key and say, we have to get a bucket here. I have to get fouled and go to the line, or I have to make this shot. And I just didn't really see that too much from him tonight. I'm all for making the right play, especially in the first half. Get your guys going, get everybody involved, kind of get a feel for the game. But I want to see in Game 5, I want to see him kind of take over more because we've seen him do it time in and time out this year. So go ahead, Chase.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe you trade out the Kyrie crazy for that kind of takeover. Like, you can't have the both.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you guys.
Kyrie score 50 and you can post about whatever documentary you want tonight. Like that's the trade-off.
Oh my gosh. No, I agree with you guys. And the real problem is that's just Dallas's offense. If we talk about OKC's ISO ball, you can talk about Dallas. If it's not a pull-up jumper from either Kyrie or Luka, it's going to be an alley-oop to Lively or Jones or Gafford or whoever is going to be, cutting baseline. But the thing is, they have the guys to make the shots, and OKC's lacking those. They have one, but they don't have anyone else. And just for the record, J-Dub tonight, 5 of 19. Lou Dort, 4 of 14.
4 of 14, okay.
There it is.
Felt like 4 of 17, though, watching it.
Lou Dort shouldn't be shooting 14 shots in a pickup game. I'm sorry, but that dude's just a liability on offense. So
I agree.
But the thing is, whether you want to look at that as encouraging, like that's what they had, and they still walked away from Dallas with a win, or if you want to look at that like they didn't play well. Either way you look at it, I think there's a lot of concern for both teams, and it looks like they're both trying to lose right now. So
real quick before we move on, official series predictions. Series predictions for Thunder Mavs 2-2 right now. Connor.
I'm sticking to my guns. I said this before the series started. I'm taking Thunder in 7. I really do feel that way. I think they figured something out tonight. And at first I was like, oh, if it goes to 7, I don't know if I trust this team. I do. I think I do trust this team now. So Thunder in 7.
Chase.
I picked Thunder in 7 at the beginning of the series. I really want to go Mavs in 7. But for the integrity of my pick, I'm gonna stick with my guns as well. I'm gonna go Thunder in 7.
Oh, well, flip-flop there. Mitt Romney. I'm going to keep mine. I said Mavs in 7 before. I'm going to stick with Mavs in 7. I think the Mavs actually I think we see OKC up 3-2, and I think the Mavs end up winning it 4-3. I think they win Game 7 in OKC. I like that. I like Dallas a lot. I think end-of-game stuff, I don't think we see that 2 games in a row. I think tonight was a fluke for OKC. I don't think we see that 2 games in a row. Luka missing 2 big free throws down the stretch. When the game's tight, I'm taking the Mavs players 100 times out of 100. Chase, you mentioned that. Give me Mavs in 7. Let's move on. Let's talk about the worst. What? Oh,
I had one more thing on this. We got to have a mini conversation here. What do they do with Josh Giddey? We don't have to spend long on this. But are you guys firmly in the camp of he doesn't need to see the floor? Should he be more of like a when SGA's out, he can come in and facilitate the offense for 12 minutes a game? Like, where are you guys at with this guy? Because he was a borderline, like, one of the best young players in the league 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think they have Australian basketball teams, and I think that they could use a guy like Josh Giddey. Yeah,
the New Zealand Breakers.
Yeah. Hey, shout out the Auckland Blue. Yeah, New Zealand Breakers.
Yeah, no,
I also
like I texted you about this, Connor. Like, his trade value tanked so hard now you can't trade him because what are you gonna get? You're gonna get a bag of chips for him, but
it's better to keep him. Yeah.
His confidence is gone. It's completely shot. Whether it was the off-the-court stuff earlier that impacted it, maybe slight injuries we don't know about as much, or maybe it's just the coaching staff's just like, hey, we don't believe in you, and it clearly shows because he can't be on the court, man. His confidence is 100% gone.
The biggest bummer for OKC is they could really use Giddey from 2 years ago, right? Someone who can facilitate and let SGA, let J-Dub, let those guys play off the ball a little bit. If you can trust Giddey to make plays, but they just can't.
But that's the thing. He can't be in that role anymore because this is now SGA's team. He is now the ball-dominant guy. Josh Giddey's been relegated to this like 5th option role, and it doesn't allow him to play the way he wants. I still think he is a good player in this league, and I think if he went somewhere where he could be that primary ball handler, he would have success. Whether or not he'd win a bunch of games or go to the playoffs, whatever, but he would have success as a player. I have a conspiracy theory I wanted to run by you guys. Just want to workshop a little take here.
I'm listening.
I think so working in TV, I really noticed this a lot. I think the TV director hates Josh Giddey because every 10 seconds in the second half, it was a sad cutaway to Josh Giddey on the bench. Like, Luka makes a layup, we're going to cut to Josh Giddey on the bench. Yes. Or SGA gets fouled, cut to Josh Giddey. And my deep, deep conspiracy theory is, who is this TV director? Is his daughter maybe the one that was dating Josh Giddey? Some kind of relation there? I'm just going out on a limb here because there was no other explanation for showing him 10 times in 5 minutes. He wasn't even in the game.
No, and it would be during the play, and they would have a cutaway to the bench where he's just shaking his head.
And he's tied on. It's not like a full body shot where it's the bench. It's tied on his face. Dude, I'm telling you, something's going on there. The producer or the director was completely anti-Josh Giddey. He was hilarious.
100%. I'm all in on that conspiracy theory.
Thank you.
It doesn't take a lot for me to get in on some of these.
No, it doesn't. Tinfoil hat stays on.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. It literally took 30 seconds of yes, okay, yeah, I'm all in.
You got
It's
me.
like when you text me, you're like, hey, lotto ticket today. I'm like, yeah, I'm in. Just let me know.
It's gotten to the point now where it's however much you put in, just put me in for the same amount. He doesn't even ask what the play is. It's just yeah, I'll just take whatever. Oh, man.
Yeah, we need to cook one for tomorrow. We'll cook one for tomorrow. But anyhow, let's move on. Celtics, Cavs. I hate this series, so let's spend as little time on it as possible. Celtics up 3-1 now. Series is done. I don't care what happens. Donovan Mitchell didn't play tonight. No Jared Allen all series. No Porzingis. The press conference stuff is so annoying. I think Boston might be my least favorite press conference team. Does that make sense, Chase?
It makes sense. I don't like it either.
They're so annoying.
If I can defend them just a little bit, not completely, but they're getting asked the dumbest questions because they're the perennial favorites, and everyone loves to egg it on this whole narrative and all this stuff. And so they get asked those stupid questions. They give stupid responses. They really want to be like those one-liners. They want to be in a Kendrick song. But no, it's bad. You're right.
Oh my gosh, man! You're just watching this stuff and like. Just look at the team down the road. Just look what the Patriots did for years. Just copy what they do in press conferences. It's very simple. Just don't say anything, and your life is so much better. It doesn't make any sense. Like today, Jaylen Brown is like, nobody on that other team can guard me, and like they're just gonna go after you 10 times harder now. Like, why are you saying that? Just say, oh yeah, we played well tonight. I was feeling it tonight, and hopefully we can keep it going the rest of the playoffs. It's that simple. Like they get PR trained nonstop. How do you not say the right things? But anyhow. Besides the point, talking about – go ahead, Connor.
They're already the best team in the league, so they're going to get the attention they want. You don't have to come out and say some hot take. It's not first take at 10 a.m. on a Monday morning. Like, you don't have to come out to get airtime. They're going to get the attention. You don't have to come out and say, well, we're not a super team. Like, the awards don't matter. Like, you guys have been telling us all year that we're a super team. Like, blah, 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 this and that. That stuff really annoys me. They do get asked some dumb questions, but the limelight's already on a team like Boston, so they don't have to, like, go out of their way to do that.
Yeah, it's not Carter Cast A block. You don't have to spit hot
Facts.
takes immediately. Yeah, there you go.
Facts. When Dylan
anyhow,
comes on and says C.J. Stroud's the worst quarterback in the league, that's what we're looking for on Carter Cast.
Yes. When I come on and I say Panthers over whatever win total and they're going to win the NFC South, that's what you want. That's why you tune in. But anyhow, Celtics Cavs on the court stuff, up 3-1 once again, like I said. No Donovan Mitchell tonight. On the Celtics side, Chase, I'll start with you. How nice is it that they're actually winning the series pretty handedly without Kristaps Porzingis?
Oh, it's nice. And if I'm being honest, from what I know about this Boston team, they're really not even trying hard. I mean, no offense to Cavs fans or that team, but Boston's these first two rounds have been an absolute cakewalk. I know that's been the narrative. It's absolutely true.
That's what I was going to say. At no point, there's been like a couple like third quarter stretches where they get a little hot, but the whole playoff run for Boston, I feel like they've never gotten out of neutral. They've just
have we seen the team from the regular season? They won 64 games. I don't think we've seen their peak from the regular season at all in this playoffs.
I feel like every game in this playoffs we're seeing a Tuesday night versus Charlotte.
No, it's like every game's on League Pass, and they really like haven't tried. From what I've heard, obviously I haven't been, but the atmosphere in the Garden's been dead, and I feel like this can kind of backfire on Boston a little bit if they're not careful, because you need to get your legs under you. You need to sprint a little bit to be ready for what comes. The problem is they just don't have the competition. Like, what are they going to prepare for if not for the finals, which is still a few weeks down the road? So,
yep. Connor.
I'm with you there. The thing about the Celtics is it seems like they just go up 10, 12, 13 points, and then it's just autopilot from there on out. It's like, oh, we'll do just enough to maintain the lead, but I don't have to hustle back here. I'll take a fadeaway here instead of getting to the rim and getting fouled. The one concern I have with Boston is when they play these better teams, it's like, how good are they when Derek White doesn't get going? It seems like he's really the engine that runs that team, and I don't love their offense whenever he's not hitting shots, which is, like, that's not the way it should be. With a star-studded roster like that, it shouldn't be Derek White, who's supposed to be your fourth best player, being the engine that facilitates that offense. But Drew Holiday had a good game tonight, but when Derek White's not hitting, I don't feel great about the Celtics against a better team.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've noticed the past two games, Tatum's had good stat lines, right? And it's been pretty obvious that he's heard the chatter. That dude loves Twitter. He's on it all the time.
Yeah.
It's so obvious. And he was like, all right, watch this. And he had his stats, right? And they got their wins, but it was also the worst their offenses looked the entire postseason, right? And so when he's not facilitating, he can take those 18, 9, and 3 games, and Boston can win by 20, or he can keep doing this, and we can have an absolute slugfest, Monday night game against the Cavs, and it's not going to be fun to watch. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be Boston basketball. So that's my concern.
Level of concern for late game stuff still.
10 out of 10. It's awful.
They stop running plays in the fourth quarter. I don't understand. They just stand around.
It's very bad, and I'm highly concerned. The fourth quarter, I want to throw up. It's disgusting. I can't believe what they do. I don't even know what they do. It's really bad.
That's why I still won't pick Boston to win the finals. Unless if they get matched up against Dallas or OKC, one of those teams pulls off a miracle run, then I mean, they might just be playing like Tuesday night at Charlotte the whole playoffs. I mean, they are sleepwalking. But if it's Minnesota or Denver, man, like
I don't know. I think I'm still picking Minnesota. I think I'm still picking Boston over Minnesota. I think Denver's the only team I'd pick against Boston right now.
But if that game is close, who you taking? If it's tie game, it's 100 to 100, 1 minute remaining in the game. Who are you taking to win?
I mean, I know you're setting me up to say the Timberwolves, but it's Anthony Edwards' first playoff run. It's the NBA effing finals. I think there's a big difference in that in the first round against the Suns.
That's fair. That's fair.
I think if there's 1 minute left in that game, I'll just wait for Cat to foul Jason Tatum at half court.
There you go.
Then,
see, the bad, like the dumb-headed, bone-headed plays by Cat, I think outweigh the late game bad plays by Boston.
There you
That was a
go.
horrible way to phrase that.
There
but
you go. Yeah.
That's what it is.
We got there. We got there. On the Cavs side of things, you're looking at the offseason now, right? You're like, okay, how can we keep Donovan Mitchell? What do we do about Darius Garland? What's the deal with Evan Mobley? Do we extend him? Jared Allen, do we need to ship him away? I mean, you have questions about every single player on your roster if you're in the Cavs front office. I'll start with you, Connor. What should the Cavs do? What can they do? What's the deal in Cleveland?
Well, I think the first thing they do is head on down courtside to where LeBron and Savannah were sitting, and LeBron has full bottle of wine and say, hey, LeBron, wouldn't it be nice to finish your career in front of this home crowd that loves you and worships the ground you walk on? That's your first move. And your second move is Jared Allen trade rumors. No, I'm just kidding. The second move, I don't know. I think what you got to do is try to find a way to keep Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland, because as much as I love Darius Garland and his game, you have a higher ceiling with Donovan Mitchell having the ball in his hands and scoring 35 points. In the playoffs, you got to have a guy that rises to the occasion, late game scenario, he can get you a bucket. Darius Garland hasn't proved that. He's a nice player, but if I'm the Cavs, you got to be like, hey, Donovan Mitchell, what's it going to take for you to stay in Cleveland? I think that's their number one priority. I don't think it works. I think he's kind of got one foot out the door, it seems like.
yeah, let me workshop a little conspiracy theory for you there.
Listening.
Why did Donovan Mitchell not play tonight? What's wrong with his calf? He looked okay a couple nights ago. Like this is kind of a must-win. Game 4 is the most pivotal game outside of elimination games. Why is Donovan Mitchell not sitting on the bench? Suiting up and just sitting on the bench?
If there's anything wrong with his calf, though, I'm sure he's looking at that KD injury from a few years ago and saying, I'm not going to risk re-injuring this calf in a series we are 100% going to lose on a team I'm not going to be on in 3 months.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the way it is.
Yeah. If I'm Donovan Mitchell, right, and I really want to stay in Cleveland, and I like this team, I like this city, it's 2-1, I got a chance to play at home, and Game 4, I'm playing that game, right? Unless something's that I don't know that's really serious about that injury, it's a little fishy to me. That's all.
He was playing his future. He was playing his future right there. It's like a quarterback who sits out when he gets franchise tagged or something like that. It's like, I am playing for my future. I'm not going to get hurt before I get this new deal or this trade or whatever.
Sitting out the bowl game.
It's a bowl game. Yeah, he's sitting out the bowl game.
There you go.
Yeah,
once they lost that Game 3,
that was super concerning today. You know, you wake up you're up this morning and you're like, Donovan Mitchell not at shoot around, like he's hurt. Like you could see he was limping a little bit, in some of these games. But it's like he played just fine. He looked fine in Game 3, like you mentioned, Chase. Give him a Pat Mahomes drug and get him in the game. Like, what do you mean? Like, let's play.
Yeah.
It's Game 4
I heard he
of
was
the
apartment
NBA
shopping.
effing Finals. He's
in Brooklyn.
He's already got his apartment in Brooklyn, dude. I mean, that dude's going to New York. There has to be some drastic changes in Cleveland, right?
It sucks because, getting Donovan Mitchell was a big win for them. It's like, this team's kind of scary now. It's kind of fun, and it just hasn't really panned out. Just the way they play together on the court, it just hasn't really worked out. So I would expect there to be some kind of change. And for Cleveland Cavs fans everywhere, I hope it's not Brandon Ingram, because that's just not going to be good for you. Not going to be a great watch.
The problem is, Connor, I mean, we have to do this real quick. Is there a team you're going to say, if a team trades for Brandon Ingram, is there any chance you're like, is there any team out there where you're like, I like that for that team. I like them getting Brandon Ingram.
The Atlanta Hawks, because they're blacked out in my area, so I would have no chance of watching them. That would be my answer. Just go ahead and put him with Trae Young. Screw it. No, there's really not. I mean, Brandon Ingram, I hate to keep doing this to him. He seems like one of those guys that's destined to be on a 30-win team and retire with he had a nice career.
He had 25,000 points.
Yeah, to quote
Brandon Ingram was a problem.
Yeah, Brandon Ingram was a problem. Look at this mixtape. That just seems to be his destiny. I don't know. It's hard for me to see him contributing to a winning franchise.
No, he's too expensive, and he ball stops, and he demands the ball too much, and he's not good enough. Let's call it like it is. Yeah, unless the package is just basically nothing, which it won't be. It's going to be an expensive package for Brandon Ingram. I don't think there's a team I'm sitting there like, you know what? I kind of like that for the Utah Jazz. I kind of like that for the San Antonio Spurs. But anyhow,
I'm with you.
Anything else on this Cleveland Boston series? It's toast. It's done. But we'll go ahead.
Can we see, Chase? Maybe you can answer this. Can Joe Mazzulla like look down the bench and be like, hey, we traded for Xavier Tillman. Like we have Neemias Queta on the team. Like let's maybe get them 12 minutes of run in this series because Al Horford playing 40 minutes a game isn't going to work. I know he only played 28 tonight, so maybe he kind of realized, but. Come fourth quarter when he's playing big minutes, he's not making a three, and that's going to hurt them.
I think the biggest thing for me is like I want Horford probably in the finals. I want him to play those big moments because I think he has them, but he needs to be rested. I mean, he looks anemic out there. Why not play Xavier Tillman? I mean, he loves Luke Cornett, obviously. I don't know what Luke Cornett has on him.
We're a huge Luke Cornett podcast. Yeah, we love Luke Cornett here.
But no, Luke Cornett.
I agree with you.
Super trustworthy, that Luke Cornett guy.
That whole Boston bench rotation, honestly.
Yeah. Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Dude, the big three, when they come out there, oh, my gosh.
That's funny. Other than that, first half, I was like cooking dinner. I wasn't really paying attention. It feels like every time I looked up, Max Strus was hacking somebody. I mean, every single time. Like,
and complaining about it.
Strus, yeah, he had like an elbow in Jaylen Brown's face, or he was in the ref's face, or he was on the floor somehow. I don't know how he only had 6 fouls. Like, I'm pretty sure I saw 10 in the second quarter.
Celtics were getting every call, though, tonight. It was insane.
Oh, well,
they were getting
24 free throw attempts to Cavs 7. And then again, the Cavs took 48 threes, but still.
I was kidding.
I know, just messing around.
It's because the Cavs look like that Cavs lineup was a JV team compared to Boston. What else are you going to do to guard those guys? You have to foul the heck out of them. It was embarrassing. Max Strus is like that kid on your middle school basketball team who's not good, but all of a sudden he hits like 4 threes in the game, and everyone thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread. That's Strus,
every Miami Heat player.
Exactly. Where has Gabe Vincent been this entire series? Where Caleb Martin is not worth anything right now.
Caleb Martin's going to get a lot of money this offseason. We're going to be sitting there. We're going to be like, Caleb Martin just got signed to $60 million for 4 years to the Pacers. What is happening right now?
That's facts. No, Max Strus is like the guy, maybe the coach's son who like hits a few threes, like you said, comes back, slaps the floor on defense, and starts clapping when the other team calls a timeout, and like tries to like get in your face, and then goes like 0 for 6 the rest of the game.
And banked in one of those threes.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, shooting sleeve that's too loose for his arm.
Shooting sleeve,
package.
But he's doing this down the court.
Pokes the opposing best player in the eye on purpose.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with Western Conference stuff and NBA Draft Lottery and more. We'll be right back. All right, let's talk about Nuggets Timberwolves right now. 2-2. We talked about it a little bit earlier. We alluded to it earlier. Timberwolves up 2-0. We recorded. We're saying that, it's all over, blah, 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 blah. Then Connor, what did I text you? What did I text you right before Game 3? What did I text you?
What'd you say? Was it Nuggets finals odds?
I said
Something like
Jokic Finals MVP. Book it. The odds are crazy. Plus 2,000 Jokic Finals MVP. I think it's down to plus 400 now, plus 350. Great bet by me. I mean, we're finally hitting our futures markets right. Sharp money right there. I was sitting there before Game 3, and I took Nuggets money line straight up, and you're just sitting there. You're like, the Nuggets are going to come out desperate tonight. The Nuggets are going to play like they give a crap. And the other thing, Kevin Harlan mentioned it on the last broadcast too, is none of these teams have beaten each other at home. Every game each team has won against each other this season has been on the road. That's 8 games in a row now where neither home team has won. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, it's worth a flyer. Game 3 happens, they win. Then Game 4 happens, man. I mean, Timberwolves Timberwolves have all the pressure on them now. All the pressure's
100%.
on them now. Go ahead. I'll start with you, Connor, just overall thoughts and everything.
This is a stale take at this point, but that 8-point swing right before halftime of Game 4, that was the difference in the game. We can beat a dead horse and say all these things. They lost by 8 points. That shifted the entire momentum. Crowd was dead after that. That was it. And if you're the Timberwolves, all the pressure is on you, and one person I don't think can handle that is Karl-Anthony Towns.
Wait, you're saying Karl-Anthony Towns can't handle the pressure? You're saying he can't step up and be the number one guy?
That might be a hot take. I don't know if anybody listened to our All Cancer Team episode, but spoiler alert, we're not biggest Cat fans on this podcast here. What was it? He was 5 for 18, had 3 fouls, but a couple of them were pretty stupid. I don't know. And he needs to show me something to make me believe in him in late game situations in the playoffs like this. I haven't seen it. And honestly, I don't want to keep ragging on guys here. Rudy Gobert also.
Rudy Gobert, that's right. I wanted to get into.
Go ahead, take it away.
Rudy Gobert,
I'm
man.
with you.
I'm first team Rudy Gobert hater. I've been on this train since day one. I'm all against Rudy Gobert. I did think the COVID thing whenever he grabbed the mics, I thought that was actually funny.
Okay, Carter. Yeah, very mature.
I was dying. He didn't know he had COVID. It was
No.
Whatever, he was grabbing it. I thought that was funny, but anyhow, the actual Rudy Gobert on the court stuff, the defensive player of the year stuff. We can keep doing it every year. This is why when we talk about all-time greats and we look back and look at everyone's accolades and everything, we need to take Defensive Player of the Year and some of these awards with a grain of salt because the regular season, Rudy Gobert is going to look great in the regular season. Every single effing playoffs, we see the same thing. Rudy Gobert gets attacked one-on-one every single time, whether it's a guard, whether it's a big. Anytime Jokic gets to see Jokic one-on-one or gets to see Rudy Gobert one-on-one, I mean, it's going right to him, going right into him. He's going to kick it out, or he's going to go right into him, get a layup, or get fouled. And Rudy Gobert, the Defensive Player of the Year stuff, he's not the best defender in the NBA, not even close. I don't know why we keep doing this song and dance every year. As a Rudy Gobert hater, this has been great because guess what? He sits out game 2. That's the best the Timberwolves defense has looked all series. No doubt about it. They were locking them down. They were locking Jokic down. Yes, he had 16-6 and 7, I think, in that game. 16-16 and 7's not that great for Jokic. Let's be honest here. Yeah, he can get a bunch of boards,
it's
but
not.
He averages 28, 10, and 10.
He looked sped up that game. They really pushed the pace on him. He wasn't ready for that. The Gobert thing, he's a great defensive player in the regular season, fine. But in the playoffs like this, number one, defensive, Jokic is taking him one-on-one every time. Defensive player of the year, that shouldn't happen. Number two, on offense, he's a liability because all of a sudden, whoever's guarding him, whether it's Jokic or Gordon, they can just sag off and roll him on defense. If you got Naz Reid and Towns in there, at least they're 40% or 35% from behind the line. You have to respect their shot. In a series like this, Gobert on the offensive end, when McDaniels isn't hitting, that's just not enough shooters on the court at one time.
Yeah, and real quick, Chase, I'll let you speak in a second here, but the Rudy Gobert KD trades TikTok that we did, Connor, we're getting flamed in the comments, man.
Good.
Brother, we're getting
Bring
flamed.
it on.
And guess what? Look at this series. What more do you need to know? If you're the Timberwolves right now, you could have Kevin effing Durant on your roster. If you're the Timberwolves right now and you say, hey, if I can swap out Rudy Gobert for Kevin Durant, you're doing that 100 times out of effing 100. It's that simple. In the playoffs, you need a number one option. You need these guys. Rudy Gobert is not winning you effing playoff series. It's that simple. And you mortgage so much of your future for it. It's insane. We keep doing this song and dance every regular season. Connor, in January, we did an NBA pod, and we're like, are the Timberwolves for real? And they're more for real than what we thought. They're not the Jeff Teague Hawks or the DeMar DeRozan Raptors or the LeBronto Raptors or whatever. But this is what we're seeing right now. Like Rudy Gobert, this is the problem. We can point to Cat. Yeah, Cat's a big problem, but the problem is you're paying Rudy Gobert superstar money, Kevin Durant, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard kind of money, and you're just not getting enough on the offensive end for it, and not even enough on the defensive end too.
The bill always comes due, and if you're the Wolves and you would have said before the season, hey, you're going to have a chance to make the conference finals, you're taking that 100% of the time.
Sure.
But all of a sudden, when it gets to the playoffs, you're like, oh man, I wish Gobert could do this better. I wish he wasn't an offensive liability. Like you're no longer happy that you're just there. You're like, wait, why isn't this working? We need to move on. What the hell is going on here? This isn't working. Gobert is getting taken one-on-one every possession. I thought he was better than this. All of a sudden, you're not happy with a conference finals appearance anymore. You're like, what's going on here? This is a failure of a season. So I just feel like the goalposts always change the more success a team has.
Chase, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. No, this series, and look, we talk about the overreaction of when Minnesota went up 2-0. Talk about the overreaction now, right? With Denver being able to tie it on the road. It's just best of 3 now. It's tied. And based on what we saw from Minnesota in Game 2, and based on what we saw Denver in Game 2, it's still very much anyone's series, right? the amount of bipolarity that's been going on here is insane, because if you watch the first 2 games, you think, wow, Minnesota really figured it out. Denver, it's hard to go back to back. Maybe Jokic was a little tired. People started talking crazy about what he deserves MVPs, which I think is nuts, of course. But then you watch these 2 games, you're like, it's the Nuggets. They've always done this. This is who they are. Timberwolves aren't ready yet. They haven't caught up. And yet here we are at a stalemate, right, with 3 games to determine who's going to move on to the conference finals. I think the problem with Minnesota, you showed your best card in game 2. You played your absolute best defense you could, and Denver still found a way to break it, to beat it and respond on your court and figure things out. Then in game 4, you have a pretty amazing Ant game. 44 points for him on 64% from the field. And you still can't get anything done because the rest of your team, we talked about them, Cat, Gobert, these guys can't get going. They can't help you out. And Edwards, I know a lot of people talked about it. Edwards looked tired because he was carrying everything. And
46
you just
minutes.
Yeah. And it had to do everything offensively. And so the Wolves have showed their cards. This is who they are. This is what they have. The Nuggets are just so savvy, so experienced, and Jokic manipulates the game, and he's manipulating, we're seeing it in real time, the series right now to get exactly where he wants to be. With a chance here, the cards have completely been laid out on the table, and he knows exactly what he needs to do. So if I'm Minnesota, I'm pretty concerned right now. I just had my best Ant game, didn't get it done.
Yep.
Murray looks like a new human being. Playoff Murray is back.
That 3-day rest, that can't be understated how big that was for the Nuggets. I mean, he must have gotten some. He flew to Kansas City and got a Pat Mahomes injection.
Germany?
No way.
Yeah.
He turned, Germany, yeah.
Yeah, and it worked, right? I always been saying the key to stopping Denver is not stopping Jokic, it's stopping Murray. But with the way Murray's been playing, the way he's been shooting, Denver's going to be tough to beat. But the thing is, we know Minnesota can do it. We saw it in the first 2 games. The question is, are they going to get the help and support from Cat and Gobert? I wouldn't bet on those guys at this point in the series.
Real quick. Why are Aaron Gordon and P.J. Washington playing out of their minds in these playoffs? They can't miss a jump shot. It's crazy.
Got on a winning team, winning situation.
Yeah. Connor, go ahead.
This series reminds me of a boxing match, or maybe even a WWE match, where it's Timberwolves
So you're saying it's scripted? You're saying it's
Maybe.
scripted? Okay, all right.
Maybe.
Well, let's just
Timberwolves put the Nuggets on the ground. They think they knocked him out. Anthony Edwards turns around, gets on the top rope. He's doing Degeneration X, crotch shots to the whole crowd. And all of a sudden, you hear the crowd ooh, they make that little noise. And Jokic is sitting straight up like the Undertaker out of the casket. And it's oh wait, these are the defending champions. Aaron Gordon just went 11 for 12. We're not going out that easily. I do feel like the Timberwolves were oh, we can beat these guys. We've got a newfound confidence. We're going to take it to them. And the Nuggets, credit to them, responded. Like a veteran team does, like a defending champion does. They responded in a big way in these last 2 games. And I'm telling you, I said it with the OKC series. I think that game 4 is a big momentum shift. I'm sticking with the Nuggets here. I'm sticking with the Nuggets in this series.
Yeah, no, I wavered a little bit. But it's
But it was a little
still
rocky.
Yeah, I got a little rocky. Real quick, anything else in this series before we get into predictions, Chase?
No, other than, I think we all should hang our heads a little bit that we just doubted this amazing Nuggets team. How stupid were we?
I came around.
You did.
I don't know.
And Connor didn't smash the panic button.
It's true.
I did not.
Yeah. Huge credit to the Karter cast for seeing that before anyone else. But this is just the way the NBA works. We love to do this. But this is Denver. These guys are the defending champs. They can do it again, and they're showing us exactly why. I love it. It's what makes the playoffs great.
One more little wrinkle I want to bring up. The Wolves, for 3 minutes in the second quarter of that 4th game, ran the 3 big lineup of Naz Reid, Cat, and Gobert all in the court at the same time. I think it was only 3 minutes. They were -3 in those minutes. But it kind of worked for them. Naz Reid was matching up with Jokic, pressuring him 90 feet from the basket. Cat was not involved defensively, picking up dumb fouls, which is what you need. And then Gobert was still roaming around protecting the rim. I think he was guarding Christian Brown. I don't really know. It kind of worked. So I'm interested to see if they go back to that at all, because Naz Reid and Cat are 40% from behind the line. I'm just curious because that gives him 3 bodies at the same time on the court to throw at Jokic every other possession. Oh, you want to switch? Here's another 7 foot, 260 guy to put on you. At least it makes it a little bit difficult for him. I think we might see that a little bit more in game 5. I just thought that was interesting. I didn't see that much during the regular season at all.
Yeah, I think so too. Real quick, series predictions. It's 2-2 now. Nuggets, T-Wolves. I'll start off. I still got Nuggets in 7. I wouldn't even be surprised if it was Nuggets in 6, but I'm going to say Nuggets in 7 to play it safe. That's what I think I said that before the series as well. I just think Jokic and Murray, they figured it out. They figured out, hey, if we speed our tempo up a little more, get Jokic the ball, and Aaron Gordon keeps knocking down shots, it's going to be pretty tough to stop him. And Cat keeps having dumb fouls. Connor, go ahead.
This one goes out to all the Timberwolves fans in our comments, all the Rudy Gobert trade defenders. Nuggets in 6. I think Game 5, the Nuggets just deal a knockout blow to the Wolves. Break their identity. Just break them. This team, yes, there's experienced veterans on this team. Haven't had a deep playoff run. Nuggets have been here before. I'm trusting them. Nuggets in 6.
Chase.
I'm going to go Nuggets in 7 because I still think a lot of Denver's, their chances in this series rely on Murray. One bad Murray game, I think Minnesota steals it. But in the end, I think Denver pulls through. Nuggets in 7.
Nuggets in 7. All right. Last series we'll talk about, and then we'll get into a bunch of other topics in the NBA. Knicks Pacers. It's 2-2 now. Pacers still both at home. Basically, it comes down to Knicks needed to win Game 3, and now it's the Pacers series to lose. Connor.
I agree with that. I think if you're Tom Thibodeau, you did the right thing. Because I heard Russillo or somebody talking about, should you punt Game 3 and try to rest your guys? That was their only chance to, really take this series and go up 3-0 and, put the nail in the coffin. Now it's 2-2. The Knicks it really comes down to the Knicks just don't have enough bodies left on the team. They have to start experimenting with this deeper bench rotation guys. Can Alec Burks just play 20, 22 minutes a game? Dust off Shake Milton. He's had a few moments for the 76ers in the past. Just do something. Jericho Sims has to play 8 minutes a game. I know if you're Tom Thibodeau, you don't trust these guys. I know you don't want to play them. But if you keep running these guys 45 minutes a game, it is just human nature that they're going to get these nagging injuries to all these muscles and hamstrings and calves that don't heal quickly. It's not just a turned ankle you can go ice. OG Anunoby, say what you want to, it seems like an injury from overuse. He is not used to that. So I don't know. If you're Thibodeau, you just got to start staggering these minutes more and maybe just get a little crafty with it and be like, hey, media timeout's coming up at the under 3 minutes. Maybe I'll take a timeout at 3:30, and that way I can steal 8 real minutes of Josh Hart sitting on the bench and maybe only 2 game minutes. You've got to start getting crafty, stealing 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, because otherwise you're going to run these guys into the ground. Fourth quarter, you've seen it already. Every jump shot short, every Pacers drive is right by those guys, right to the lane, kick out, wide open 3. Something's got to change with that, and if you're Thibodeau, you're going to have to change your ways. You're going to have to evolve with the times, and you're going to have to just trust some of these guys to make plays. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, but you're not going to be able to win like this.
Chase.
Yeah, the Knicks are a pitcher who's just thrown too many pitches, right? A good pitcher that has thrown too many pitches, and now they got to trot out some, 37-year-old overweight white dude who's pitching for his mortgage, right?
Luke Cornett.
You just hang your head and you're like, we're not winning this game because it's just exactly what Connor said. They're just worn out. They're worn out. They threw good pitches. They're a good pitcher, but you can't throw that many. And the Knicks are running out of juice. And the more I see it, the more I see the Pacers, the more I see the 21 Hawks. I mean, it's literally it's uncanny some of the similarities going into this series. And the chance that they have to go to the conference finals is crazy to me. They deserve a lot of props for the way they've been playing. They have an awesome home crowd. This might be the only series where home court really matters. Obviously playing in the Garden and then going to Indiana. Tyrese Halliburton's been able to find something, go back in time a little bit to where he was doing stuff in the in-season tournament. So I'll give him a lot of credit for that because it's not easy to come out from injury and playing the way he was towards the end of the season and to show up in these big games like this and outplay Brunson, who's been having one of the most insane playoff runs we've ever seen from a point guard, and be able to turn the tide of this series. Now, again, it's still 2-2. The Knicks still have a better team, in my opinion, but with that fatigue and those injuries in the way, it's going to be tough for them to pull this one out.
Yeah, Jalen Brunson, man. It's not even just the actual minutes they're playing. It's also what they're doing on the court during those minutes. Josh Hart's having to play the 5 all the time and having to go. He's getting every rebound. He's playing, just dirty basketball, just trying to get every loose ball. He's there. He's having to run point, having to run center, having to run small forward. He's playing everywhere. And then also Jalen Brunson, you're taking 25-plus shots a game, dude. Like, that wears on you. That's so many shots in a game. And not to, he's also getting trapped all the time. He's getting hounded. I mean, it's just not sustainable what they're doing. And it's 2-2 now. I still wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks won, though. Like, if Jalen Brunson just go, he just plays different in the Garden too, man. Like, it's crazy, Connor.
I think that's true. It'd be different if Jalen Brunson was taking 25 standstill threes in the corner every game. But he is getting hounded by Nesmith, Nembhard, T.J. McConnell, all the way like 94 feet from the basket. He is getting ridden all the way up the court. That takes a toll. And if you're Josh Hart, his whole game is like he prides himself on being the energy guy, the glue guy. It's hard to be the energy guy with no energy. His Gatorade bar is constantly blinking. Like, if you play 2K, you're at 50 energy, you can't sprint anymore. It's blinking red. Like, that is what's happening to this Knicks team. I don't know, guys. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they pulled it together and won it either, but it's just sad if you're a Knicks fan, and I don't know if I have any sympathy for these guys or not, but if you're a Knicks fan, this was the year. Jimmy Butler down. Porzingis actually goes down. Like, you might have a puncher's chance against Boston. Embiid's hurt, barely makes it back for the playoffs, and then all of a sudden, Julius Randle's out. Mitchell Robinson's out. Bogdanovich, your big trade piece, out. OG Anunoby, your other big trade piece, out. Those are 4 of your top 7 players right there that are out for the year. So, just run out of bodies at this point, and it's just going to be looked back on like, yes, Brunson is awesome, and this season has been awesome, but it's just going to be a big season of what ifs. Like, what if they were healthy during that crazy Brunson run? Because if we're being honest, I don't know how many years he can do this. Like, he is an amazing player, but he's a 6-foot point guard. How many years is he going to be averaging 30 a game? I don't know.
Yeah. No, Chase.
Yeah, I think the big problem for the Knicks is you need 40 from Brunson to win in this series. That's kind of what it's come down to. They had 35 from DiVincenzo game 3. They still couldn't pull that one off. Who else is going to give you a big game? That's it. You've gone through your players. Josh Hart's never going to give you more than 15. And he can go grab as many rebounds as he can. You got to put the ball in the basket at the end of the day. They just don't have the guys to do it.
Basket.
Yeah, that's exactly. You got to take it to the basket. So I know we're not doing serious predictions now, but I think Indiana pulls this off just because. What are you going to get from New York? I mean, one good Brunson game left. Sweet, you win that one. After that, I mean, he's not going to do this 3 times in a row. And if he does, I'll be very impressed. I hope I'm proven wrong, but he can't. So Indiana is going to take this one.
Yeah, it's just he's just probably going to run out of gas. That's the sad reality of this. And it's just the other thing is like I think Knicks fans in next year are going to be like, man, what if we were healthy, like you were saying, Connor. Mm-hmm. In reality, neither of these teams are beating Boston. Now, if the Knicks were fully healthy, I think they give Boston a little, they scare them. They take them to 6, probably, maybe 6. But Boston's still winning either series, regardless of whoever's fully healthy or not. So that's why it's like, the what ifs. Who really? You think the Knicks would win?
I don't know if they'd win, but if you're telling me Porzingis is out and you got Al Horford and Xavier Tillman and Luke Cornett down there,
but if you do that what if in your head though, you have to say both teams are fully healthy.
Okay, fair. Yeah, I don't know. The Knicks would have a puncher's chance. They have Anunoby and Josh Hart to stick on Tatum and Brown just to make their life a living hell, but ultimately, no, I think Boston would still pull it out.
Yeah, exactly. But anyhow, let's do series predictions. It's tied 2-2 Pacers Knicks. Who do you guys have winning the series? I'll start with you, Chase.
I think Brunson's got one more amazing game in him in the Garden. But that's it. I'm going to go Pacers in 7.
Pacers win in the Garden, Game 7.
Yes, they do.
Wow. Connor.
I'm gonna zag a little bit here and go Knicks in 7. I think this Game 4, being a 40-point blowout and being over by the third quarter, was big for the Knicks, resting their starters, getting them ready for another game in 2 days. I got Knicks in 7 here. I think if it gets to a Game 7 in the Garden, there's some kind of magical aura that comes over Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart and DiVincenzo in the Garden like that in the Game 7, and I think they pull it off. So Knicks in 7 would be mine.
I agree with Connor 100%. I think Game 4, kind of not punting, but just not having to play a lot of minutes in that game helps out the Knicks a ton. I think that helps them in Game 5 a lot. They take Game 5. All they got to do is win one more in the Garden. I think Jalen Brunson, if the game gets tight in Game 7, I'm taking Jalen Brunson over anybody else on the court, even if he is playing 40-plus minutes and he is a little tired. I'm taking Jalen Brunson every time in a close game. Give me Knicks in 7. All right. Last few things. What do we want to do? We want to do draft. Let's do draft lottery. It was terrible. I mean, it was awful. Like, first off, I thought it was always on a Tuesday night. I thought it was always on a Tuesday night, and then like a week in advance, I'm like, why the F is the draft lottery Sunday at 1 p.m.?
Yeah.
Like,
Mother's Day.
Is this a WNBA game? What are we doing? Like, come on. Let's put it on Tuesday night like it always. Yeah. No, WNBA's back, dude.
No, but this year's draft class, though, lottery on a Sunday on Mother's Day, it kind of fits. Like, it's not.
Fits. Yeah, it fits for sure, but like, ugh. And then you see the top four, you're like, Hawks, Wizards, Rockets, and Spurs, and you're like, Spurs are getting back-to-back number one picks. That was the first thing that went through my mind as it was going down. But real quick, if you're a Hawks fan and you just won the lottery, how are you feeling? Because you saw Landry Fields, the GM of the Hawks. He wasn't celebrating. He was like halfway smiling, but he's like, "Oh crap, I'm screwed. I have the number one overall pick, like in the worst draft maybe in NBA history. Like, my job is ruined."
Yeah, because in a draft like this past year, the top three was pretty much set in stone. It was Wemby, it was Brandon Miller, it was Scoot. Like in some order, two or three. Like those are three guys. And even though Scoot hasn't panned out to be what he's supposed to be yet, that's not going to make a GM lose their job. Like that was a surefire top three right there. This coming year is a complete crapshoot. I mean, you could tell me anything. And if you're a Hawks fan, obviously be happy you got the number one pick. It's kind of hard to not feel that resentment of like, oh my God, of course we got the number one pick this year. But then you got to think about it and be like, okay, but you could have gotten the sixth pick this year. And there's no guarantee. It's not like some rotation you'll get the number one pick next year. So I just feel like you got to take it with a grain of salt and be like, yeah, the draft class sucks, but at least we got first dibs. So
this is an all-time swing for the fences draft.
I think so too.
If you see a guy with a funky European name, take him. That simple. It'll be so easy to convince your fan base to say, hey, get this random European cat nobody's ever heard of. All right, fine, let's do it. Sounds good.
Yep.
Chase, draft lottery. If you're the Hawks, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I think pretty like mediocre. You're like, oh, cool, number one, but like,
this is the year we get the number one pick.
You're like, who are we getting? Like, what Hawks fans was like doing draft boards is like, I really want to know who's like on our radar. Like, no one knows. They're like, who are we picking? Alex Sarr? I mean, they probably have read now, but yeah, I don't have much to say about the other one. You guys, if the production of that stupid lottery show was any indication of this draft class, holy crap.
Oh my gosh!
Don't be hating on the mothership. Don't be hating on the mothership.
I'll be hating on the mothership.
I'm hating on the mothership. It was awful.
That was one of the worst telecasts for draft show, any sporting telecast. I mean, we have Kendrick Perkins. Kendrick Perkins can't even pronounce half the dudes' names in this draft lottery, let alone he doesn't know what he's doing. He's high as a kite on TV being like, oh, yeah, I think that they're going to pick this guy and he's going to be a good basketball player. And then, like, the host was trying to make, like, sexual innuendo jokes and you were like draft dick picks or she was making weird stuff. And then the side interviews with, like, Brandon Miller, like, they were like, Scoot Henderson, is this harder being here than being on the court? He's like, I guess because I can't really control my own destiny. And they're like, that's a really good answer, Scoot. Like, what are we doing? Like, that was horrible. Just do the draft lottery. Put on freaking Tim Legler and say, I like this guy in the draft. Throw on Jay Bills and say, I like that guy in the draft. And end the show. It's that simple. How dumb are these people making these shows?
Why are we putting players? Why are they sending so many players to represent the teams now? And they're all rookies. Isn't that strange?
Bullshit Julian Phillips, who played about 20 regular season minutes for
I was like, he's a Windy City Bull.
Oh, my God.
The funniest part is they're in Chicago. You couldn't get one dude, just get some assistant GM be like, hey, Dave, can you go down to the draft lottery today and sit on a chair and look pretty? Cool, thanks.
They're probably like, well, we want to send a player, and then 10 of their guys are not going to be on the roster next year. So it was pretty slim pickings probably. Like maybe Kobe White get down there. I don't know. Great point about Kendrick Perkins. This is the year you take Perkins off the draft crew because there are going to be about 40 European names on draft night. And I don't know if we're going to – I'm not pretending to be Merriam-Webster here, but, Kendrick Perkins had a tough time in the past. Let's just do him a solid. Maybe get sick on that night, buddy.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, that's a great point. This is the year to take Kendrick Perkins off. we should do it to where we're talking about like ESPN. You know how we talk about teams are like the Chicago Bulls, they need a clean house and have a complete rebuild. I think ESPN needs a clean house and have a complete rebuild because it is a disaster on all fronts of their NBA coverage right now. I mean, they are awful.
Well, there's about to be a big free agent class of Shaq, Kenny, Charles, and Ernie Johnson, so who knows?
Watch them spend all their money on Kenny, and you're just like, you spent all your money on Kenny Smith, really? Like, yo,
that's like the Wizards going all in on Jordan Poole. It's like, oh wait, you were great. You were the fourth best player, but it was the number one option. Like I don't know what we're doing
Kenny
here.
Smith is the number one option. He's like wearing a fedora on ESPN with Michael Wilbon. You're like, what are we doing? Like,
I don't know if Kenny Smith is the number one guest on Get Up every weekday morning. I'll tell you that.
Last thing about the draft, real quick. Bronny, hilarious. All the Bronny coverage is. It was like, so it transitioned to like, oh, okay, what's going on here with this Bronny James kid? You know, the high school stuff. You see the mixtapes and whatnot. And then you're like, okay, this is kind of weird. And then you find out he's not really that good. And you're like, oh, this is a little sad. Now it's turning into, I think this is all hilarious because Lay GM is 100% real now. The fact that it seems like the Lakers are going to use their second round pick on Bronny James. It's Lay GM. Rob Pelinka is just an NPC. He's not a real person. He's just Rob Lowe. He's just wearing a Rob Lowe costume, playing Lakers GM as an actor. It's Lay GM 100%. He's running the show. JJ Redick coming in as a potential head coach is telling you everything you need to know.
It's basically LeBron drawing up plays. I'm telling y'all right now, I don't know if Bronny will be there for the Lakers' second round pick. Somebody's going to talk themselves into being like, if we take him, we get 3 years of LeBron. But spin zone, this is my big conspiracy
theory. It's the
theory.
G League.
Well, it's not even that. It's that, if I'm LeBron James, this year I had a great year. 39 years old, still had a great statistical season. Still not at the peak of my powers, but a top 15 player in the league. He has the pull right now to be like, draft my son, I'll come play for you, maybe. Like, he's dangling that bait up there. If Bronny goes back to college for 2 years and LeBron starts declining and he's 41, nobody's going to be willing to make that risk anymore and be like, oh, we get LeBron at age 42 for 2 years because we draft his son who's not even that good. All of a sudden, he doesn't have as much pull. But he has the pull right now. So I think he's timing it right.
It's pretty obvious, too, because Bronny James, I feel bad for him. He has no business being in the NBA draft. All right? He's not an NBA caliber player. But the fact that he's sticking in this and he's going to the draft and he's entering it is all the signs pointing to, yes, he's going to be teaming up with his dad. Like, he's going to get drafted there. The problem is, though, Connor, if you think for 1 second that the New Orleans Pelicans draft Bronny James and they're like, all right, LeBron, welcome to the squad. It's not happening.
That's the thing. It's all a ploy. It's just bait. It's like, draft my son, maybe I'll come play. Like, it's like a girl like pulling up her skirt.
All it takes is LeBron. All it takes is one call. LeBron has to call Silver just one time and be like, my son's not effing playing for them, and I'm not going there. Get him somewhere else now. And Silver's to be like, yes, master, I will do that for you. Whatever you say, my king. Like,
my glorious king.
That's absolutely what's going to happen. So he's going to the Lakers.
Well, imagine if the Salt Lake City. Well, I think the Bronny thing's like, you can just point to it and be like, hey, we're going to pick up Bronny and we're just going to sell a ton of G League tickets. The Salt Lake City Stars are like, let's freaking go. We're going to sell out the Maverick Center. We're going to dominate in the G League ticket sales game. But, yeah, he's going to the Lakers. I mean, the fact that he's foregoing the rest of college and he's staying in the draft tells you everything you need to know. LeBron just like this, and it's kind of hilarious because, like, it's turning into, is LeBron just like those, those horrible delusional AAU dads that ruin their kids' careers, where they're just, it's for their own selfish gain, where they're like, no, it's not my son him.
It's like it's becoming a reality TV show. Like, I don't think we're fully grasping how insane this is. Like, imagine Tom Brady's kid is playing at like Northern Atlantic University and he throws for like 500 yards in a season. And then he enters the draft. This is what it's like. Bronny averaged like 2 points. He's 6'1". Like, he can't jump higher than Reed Shepherd. This is insane.
Nobody can jump higher than Reed Shepherd.
To be fair, yeah, we'll throw a little asterisk on that last one. If his name wasn't Bronny James, there's no question we wouldn't be hearing anything about a guy with his stat line from college, period. Even if he had great combine numbers, he's not on any draft board projections if his name's not Bronny James. That being said, at the end of the day, I hope he does succeed. I don't want to see him fail. I'm not going to give the same energy that like all these people give to LeBron to his son. Like, I hope he does break free of his dad's shadow and like succeed in the NBA someday and be like, wow, he might have come in too early, but he's really not turned into a nice role player. Like, I hope that happens. I hope he plays 20 minutes a game somewhere. I don't know if that's going to happen based on what I've seen so far, but we'll see.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be shocked if a team talks himself into taking them before the second round, though. I'll tell you all that.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, I'm not rooting against Bronny James. It's more so the LeBron AAU dad factor of it all, where you're just like, dude, like, you're giving bad advice. You're screwing your son's career, and maybe.
But if he gets his son first round, that's guaranteed money. That's
what I'm
money.
saying. Like,
Bronny James doesn't need money. He doesn't need money.
Fair, also fair.
Yeah,
also
that's
fair.
the other point. You're like, yeah, exactly. Let's move on. A couple of last things I want to get into. We were talking about NBA coverage just a second ago. Bill Simmons alluded to it on his podcast a little bit, basically saying that it's basically a done deal that NBC is going to get the NBA rights, and Warner Brothers and Inside the NBA is going to be gone. Ernie Johnson said he's not leaving Turner Sports no matter what. Charles Barkley is going to be a free agent. This is a disaster for the NBA. This is a full-blown 911 smash the panic button disaster if you're the NBA. You have the best sports studio show on television in the world right now.
Of all time.
Of all time. You cannot lose this right now. You can't lose this. You see how bad ESPN's coverage is? That's what it's probably going to be on NBC. I think it'll be better on NBC. I like what NBC does on most of their other sports, especially soccer. I think they do a great job. But you're not replicating inside the NBA. You're not replicating what Chuck, Shaq, Ernie, and Kenny have built over the years. This is a absolute disaster for the NBA.
Let's give Jason Garrett some credit here, Carter. He can come on NBC.
Dude, how do Notre Dame fans not riot in the streets for their football coverage?
I wouldn't watch.
It is horrible. Anytime you have to tune into a Notre Dame game and you had the sound on, you're like, what am I listening to? I mean, it is... I don't want to say the A word, but it's a little A word-ish. It's horrible, though. I mean, it is so awkward on the show. That's not the A word I was thinking of, but it's so awkward on the broadcast with Collinsworth Kid and Jason Garrett, and you're just like, this is just awful, awful TV. It's terrible. But I will say their soccer coverage is unbelievable.
The problem is, who's NBC going to grab? I mean, we're going to be listening to Brian Scalabrine give some analysis on some Trae Young highlights.
If they're putting up $2.5 billion or $3 trillion, whatever the number is that they're putting up for this NBA deal, they can afford to send a ton of money towards one of these guys, right? Like,
I heard Kirk Herbstreit's got a couple free days during the week.
They get Al Michaels.
Might as well. He does everything else.
I was going to say, it covers everything else. I do think this is a disaster. I think you're right, Carter, about the studio show. You finally found something that's pretty much universally loved, which is, I mean, damn near impossible to do. There's always a group of people that hate something about some kind of show.
And
most
if you
people
don't
love
like
Inside the NBA,
if there's people out there that don't like Inside the NBA, you're a loser. You're just a flat out loser. That's what you are.
Yeah, there are certain parts like Shaq in the whole like Jokic interview when he said he voted for SGA. The first thing he said, there are certain things that I don't like, but overall as a show, it's the best thing I've ever seen.
Yes, 100%.
Period.
But
I don't know. If you're NBC though, here's the thing: there was this huge wave a few months ago, like nostalgia, and people were like, "Oh, like bring back the NBA to NBC, and like this is going to be awesome." And then people started like open their eyes and be like, "Wait a second, ESPN's not losing out on this deal, so it's either NBC or TNT." And then they were like connecting the dots, and you could like see like the progression of tweets where it was like, "Wait a second, if NBC gets this and TNT loses it, that means no more Inside the NBA." And all of a sudden, people are trying to walk it back. I think NBC is going to get this because I don't think Warner Brothers are going to fork over that much money for not as many games. Because I was hearing a lot of stuff where it's like they don't even get a guaranteed conference finals. They don't even get a guaranteed like package. It's like every other year. Warner Brothers is not going to fork over that kind of money. NBC will. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, these bigwigs got to get together in a room and just kind of like talk it out and be like, look, we can't lose this product. It's best for the game. Somehow, some way, that show's going to have to continue with the same cast. You can't replicate that anywhere else.
Yeah, and I listened to some sports media podcasts where they were talking about that. I guess potentially NBC could take over Warner, buy out Warner Sport, and just Comcast buys them out because I guess Warner Brothers is down the toilet right now, and so they're in a ton of debt and they have to. There's some bullcrap there. But NBA, man, you can't lose it. Like, why would you? Let's say Warner Brothers puts up $2.3 billion and NBC puts up $2.5 billion. I think it's worth losing $200 million to keep inside the NBA. I really do.
Yeah,
and that's the decision Adam Silver's gonna have to make. I don't know if he's like. I know he's in the room at least. I don't know who makes the final call, but yeah, that's the thing. They're just gonna take the most money.
And so, then it boils down to like, okay, clearly they're not. They don't. Clearly they're just like, we don't care about our coverage necessarily because people aren't watching live games as much during the regular season. We're just not going to put as much money towards that and care towards that as we are our social media and our YouTube pages because that's what's getting all the clicks.
The solution is for Warner Brothers just to put all their money in GameStop and AMC, ride it to the moon, diamond hands, and all of a sudden you have enough money to outbid NBC. There you go.
All they need to do is put in a six-leg parlay. A six-leg parlay, 6 home run hitters, Ronald Acuna, Devers, Ohtani, and we'll figure out the 3 others, and you just win. It's that easy.
3 Mets players.
3 Mets players, yeah. Polar Bear Pete.
Danny Davis.
And then last thing before we get into the shout out Charlie Boy on Twitch. Last thing before we get into we finish the show, coaching carousel, Budenholzer to the Suns. Does that matter? Like, I feel like the Suns are just who they are.
I think I agree with that. It's like, oh, let's get another coach that's had some success in the past, and we're going to convince ourselves it's going to be different. But in reality, it wasn't Frank Vogel's fault. It just wasn't. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could put James Naismith as the head coach of the Suns. You're not doing anything to those players. They are who they are. They're all of age. They're all doing the things that they feel like they should be doing on a basketball court. So, Suns are the Suns, man. We've had great conversations about how trash their situation is, and I don't think it's any better. Maybe it's a little better. I mean, it's an upgrade from Frank Vogel, but like how much does it matter? Not much.
Yeah, like you said, I still think it's an upgrade, but it's like when Quinn Snyder comes into the Hawks, you're like, yeah, I like this hire, but Quinn Snyder isn't Houdini. Like, he can't fix this. Like, what's going on here? He's not a bottle of Flex Seal. Charles Lee to the go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, as a Hornets fan, how do you feel about our move so far?
Charles Lee to the Hornets. I think it's good. I don't know. Like, that's the thing. Whenever you hire these like random assistants, you're just like, oh, they were on an awesome team that was good for a lot of time, and he was around good organizations. So you're like, yeah, you're going to talk yourself into him every time. So yeah, I'm all in. That's all it takes.
I'm just glad the Hornets have a direction they're going in. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on all these assistant coaches or executives that they're hiring right now, but it seems like they have a clear direction, and he knows who he wants on his staff, and that's what I like. He's not wasting time doing all this crap. He's getting people that he wants on his staff. And I really am thankful that it's not JJ Redick. I'm sorry,
it's loser.
Break. It's like on 2K, like when you're playing franchise mode, and then like a guy retires, and then all of a sudden you see him in the assistant coaching pool like the next season you play. It's like, oh, Vince Carter and JJ Redick are in a suit. Like, I can hire them as my assistant coach, but they have a D- grade. Like, give me a break on that.
Could have sold some tickets. Could have been the Hornets' first nationally televised game in who knows how many years.
I'd rather get some building blocks rather than just like, I don't know.
Now, I think I like
the franchise forward.
Like I said, I think I like the hire, but I don't know. We'll see. Got to stay. It doesn't matter. Stay healthy. It's that easy.
Charles Lee is a Celtics man, so I'll tell you guys this. I think he's awesome, and I think he won. My whole philosophy, if I was ever a GM, when I grew up, falling in love with the NBA, I never understood how Mike D'Antoni kept on getting a head coaching job. And I was like, why do they keep hiring the same guys who just suck over and over again? And so my philosophy with head coaching hires always is never get a guy who's coached in the NBA before, unless he's like Popovich or Spoelstra. Like, get someone new. That way you get him cheaper. If he sucks, you can dump him. But at least like get someone new, get someone young, get someone innovative. And Charles Lee is that guy. So Hornets are on the up and up.
That's a good call, because if the coach is good enough, like if he's one of those elite coaches, he's not changing teams most likely. It's very rare that a team will let a guy go that's like legitimately a top 5 coach in the league. So I think that's a good take.
Last thing, Lakers. I think their coaching search is down to the Timberwolves assistant Nori, Borrego, and Redick. Right, is what I'm hearing.
I heard Jabron Lames was a candidate also. I don't know.
I heard Rich Paul might be the head coach. So,
oh man,
Maverick Carter the assistant. So. Yeah, and so I don't
know. If you're the Lakers, what are you gonna do?
Imagine like Does it genuinely? Does it tarnish LeBron's legacy if the Lakers do draft Bronny and JJ Redick comes in as head coach? Because, like I said, that ultimately proves LeBron is and has been the GM of this ship the whole time. We know it; it's been unwritten, but then it's right in our face, and we full blown know it that he's the GM of the show. Does that tarnish his legacy in the long run? Being like, oh, he was the one behind every single one of these decisions in his career that could have, that weren't positive, but necessarily.
I don't know if it tarnishes his legacy, but it's something that people bring up, right?
Yeah.
Like, how many coaches LeBron have? And like, he built this Lakers team. Look what they did his last 4 seasons, whatever it is. Yeah, I think it gets brought up, but it's not about basketball at that point. It's just a little ridiculous. Honestly, the Lakers should just hire a therapist to sit on the bench, right? And it'd be way less cheap.
Jordan Peterson on the Lakers bench.
He would draw up the same plays as Darvin Ham. Like, what's the difference? I mean, come on.
Yeah, tarnish his legacy is a little rough on the wording there, but it would leave a bad impression and a bad taste in everybody's mouth when he retires. That would be the lasting image where it's like, LeBron's always been in the media. He's always made it about him. He's always given these cryptic messages. He has never just played. Like, that's just who he is. But this is a whole new level of sideshow. If his son gets drafted there, if Redick gets his first coaching job there, it becomes this whole, like, L.A. Hollywood production, really. And that is the lasting impact he'll leave. It's like when he retires in 2 years, it'll be like, remember those 3 years when Bronny, James, and LeBron and J.J. Redick all teamed up in L.A.?
It's a glorified AAU team. It's like, that's all it is.
But that's what I was going to say. Like, are we in the LeBron era of Jordan Wizards? Like, are we in similar eras now? Like,
yes.
Because we did this last year, Connor. We said, was this LeBron's last run to the Western Conference Finals? Like, is this it? Are we ever going to see him make it back? If he's on this Lakers roster, they're not getting back to the Western Conference Finals. No way. And so,
no, they're not.
Essentially, he's just on his Jordan Wizards game,
Might as well have some fun. Put up some points. Screw it. Play with my son. Get my friend, podcast partner, coach.
Make a sick reality show, sell it to Facebook Live, whoever, sell it to some stupid streaming service. But yeah, anything else before we go?
All right, super quick.
Oh yeah. You want to get
super quick? All right, which would be easier, an NFL player playing in the NBA or NBA player playing in the NFL?
NBA player playing in the NFL.
Okay,
I agree with that completely. There's 52 roster spots for a reason. You can find a place for them on the 11 spots on each side of the ball. I mean, they can go play slot receiver. They can play running back. Some of the bigger guys can maybe play tight end, O-line. Like, it's just an easier transition than the conditioning that it takes for basketball. I'm not saying football players don't get tired, but you get a break after every play.
No, but the other thing is, it's not. I don't even care about the conditioning part of it. They just have to put on some weight. That's the main thing. Because NBA guys, when you on TV, they look big, like as kind of like built. In person, they're really lean, dude. They're super lean. But I would say quarterback. You have to exclude quarterback from this conversation because I don't think quarterback's a fair game. Quarterback's the hardest job in sports. It's impossible. It's the hardest position in sports, without a doubt. I would say NBA to the NFL is much easier because these dudes are already super athletic, and a lot of these dudes played high school football. There's not as much skill involved in football. Like, you're just tackling dudes and catching football, or you're just a running back. You're just running the ball. Like, it's just not as much skill as having to sit there with the hand-eye coordination of being able to dribble, shoot, pass, create space. There's so much more into basketball.
And you only get 6 fouls.
And you only get 6 fouls for a football player.
We know how that goes. I mean, playing high school basketball, when the football players would come in, there's a certain play style. It's bully my way to the rim and put a shoulder into you. Well, the one caveat, Carter, to what you're saying, I think NBA players in the NFL will get hurt more. I think that we'd see more injuries of guys getting hit when basketball players make the transition to football rather than football to basketball.
Lou Dort could play football no problem.
Dude, Ant Edwards could be running back, receiver. He would kill it.
Like, if Zion's hamstrings are fine, this dude's going to be dominate. Like, dude could murder people.
And football is more of an athletic sport where, like you said, these guys are already like star athletes, world-class athletes. If you come to basketball, none of these football guys have a jump shot. They'd be shooting 5% from behind the line.
That's the difference. They can't shoot the basketball. I crack up because like everyone's posting.
Tony Romo could shoot.
Dude, everyone's posting these like NFL players like their highlights from high school. He has like Cooper DeJean in high school. It's like, dude, I go to the rec center. There's some kid doing that. Like, what do you mean? Like, just because you can
Bill
dunk.
Simmons is obsessed with the Drake May highlights. Like, I watched him play. He was like in the conference next to us. He was good, but it's like he wasn't insane. Like his highlights are not crazy.
Dude,
He's
Luke
playing
May
Reynolds. He's playing Reynolds.
Luke May couldn't crack it in the league. Like, that was the basketball player of the family. Like, get the heck out of here. Drake May could never play in the NBA. He could barely make a D1 roster.
But dude,
let's be
Mike
real.
Evans can dunk.
Dude.
That's the thing. When you see Myles Garrett in the celebrity game and you think that's all it takes, it's not the same thing.
No.
No,
Anyway.
I don't think it's necessarily close. The answer,
I don't either.
I genuinely like. If you have the build for football, football's the easiest sport to pick up out of any of these. Hockey, NBA, baseball's the hardest one to pick up. You can't pick up baseball.
Unless you're Michael Jordan.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, MJ, bro.
Yeah.
No, that's the thing. Like, none of those guys in either sport could go play baseball, right? Because they wouldn't hit bat to ball. It'd be impossible. It's this thing with NBAs. You just can't shoot. You have to be
Could you
able to
imagine
dribble
these
all
dudes
that
playing soccer? Like they could play, some of them could play goalie. That's about it.
Luka would be good at flopping.
I don't know, man.
Lining the refs.
I watch a lot of soccer. There might be more flopping in the NBA, man. It's that.
It's getting bad.
It's bad.
It's getting real bad. But anyhow, all right, that's it from us. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Chase_Rogers0, at Connor_Sparrow, at CarterBA, at CarterCast on all social media. Subscribe to the YouTube, subscribe, do what you got to do to help out. Subscribe, rate, review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening. To download, subscribe, do what you can to do to help out. We'll be back later this week. We're going to have a shorter podcast. We're going to have one out on Friday morning, shorter pod after games 5s and 6s of the world. After that, record Thursday night. So we'll be back. Stay tuned, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye.